Hi, my name is Brady Hepner, and you're watching the Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press. Today I am so happy to be joined once again by Brady Hepner. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to be catching up with you and talking about some new projects. Very, very, very exciting. But before we get into them, I know that fitness is very important to you, and congratulations, you earned your ISSA Elite
Thank
Trainer's
you.
license in 2023. So tell me about what you specialize in or focus on and how movement continues to play a central role in your life.
Yeah, so I've always been around the gym, working out, that sort of thing. Fitness has always been a big part of my life, growing up with a big sports background. But I really wanted to get my license, one, to be able to have the knowledge to help others, but also to have the knowledge for myself because I had lots of questions and I couldn't really necessarily find them by a quick Google search. So I decided to, full on go get my license. Once I got my license, I was able to help out family, friends, and help them with their journey. And that's really cool to see, people trying new things. And, if they stay with it, there's really no negative benefits to it. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting idea to go do it, and I did it. So here we are now.
That's really neat because it's one thing to, go to the gym a lot, like you mentioned, but to want to learn more about like the technical side and nutrition and recovery, which I know were kind of points that you studied and researched.
Yeah, I specialize in bodybuilding, recovery training, and nutrition. Those are like the big three because those are really what I wanted to learn.
And help yourself in the meantime. Who are some inspirations of yours in this field that you kind of looked up to?
Oh, um, in the bodybuilding world, I would say, I have to say, Arnold, Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he is like the father of it all. More recently, there has been Chris Bumstead has a big one for me. Lee Priest. Um, who else would I put on that list? I'm gonna say those, and then I'll go with like the Ronnie Coleman sort of route. But I mean, really, it was the champions of like the 1980s, 1990s eras where, it was really institutionalized as the golden era of bodybuilding. That's what really got me into it. But yeah, I'd probably say that's probably my pyramid.
And for you, that's like before you were born. So I guess doing research into that
Way
era.
before I was born. Oh yeah. But no, it's cool to see. I mean, almost with everything in life, how stuff originated, the process of when it really got popularized, and where we are now with it all.
Now we'll get into another project. This is the one we talked about in 2022, which is the Black Phone. And I know that you reunited with your co-stars and friends, Jacob, Madeline, and her sister Violet at the premiere of their movie, The Curse of the Necklace, in September, and to celebrate a winter formal earlier this year. Can you expand upon the friendships you've gained from that movie and what they mean to you?
I mean, really, they're everything to me. Jacob has truly become one of my best friends. We were literally on the phone 20 minutes ago before I hopped on this call. But yeah, yeah, I mean, I'd call him literally one of my brothers now. We go and hang out all the time. The movie, besides that, has given me countless connections through that. Jacob and I are always, you know, oh, hey, I met this person. You should reach out to them. Hey, I met this person. They're coming over. So if you want to hang out with us, that would be a great idea. So he's really the center, I would say, of the friendship of the movie because I've known him the longest and spent the most time with him. Madeline, she's fantastic. Sometimes she'll be in Atlanta the same time as me, and we'll go to escape rooms all together. We'll go to restaurants and just hang out in the city. So she's just a joy to hang out with as well. And I mean, I still talk with Tristan. He's doing his own thing in Los Angeles, which is really cool to see. It's really cool to see everybody grow up from when we were filming to today. And they're becoming their own person. You see their careers going up from where we were. It's just it's the movie gave me a lot of great people to be surrounded by and have relationships that are still continually growing.
And you always have that movie and the characters to look back on. And I know that you like to go to Halloween horror nights with some of the
Yes.
guys with Tristan, Jacob, Banks as well. So do you have any
Mhm.
plans to go this year? I think that you might have had to skip out on last year.
I did. I was filming the Waterfront last year and I was really bummed. But I don't know. The conversation will definitely pop up depending on how business goes. Probably will not be able to attend this year due to work. But oh yeah, Horror Nights is just such a fun place. I love being scared. That's why I love horror movies. So just having a night with all your friends where you can be scared together, it's a super fun time.
Hopefully in future years. But what was really cool was when you did get to go, you got to meet a lot of fans as well who really, were impacted by the movie and by your roles.
Right. It was really surreal to see something, especially right at the first Halloween Horror Nights we went to right after. It was so surreal to see something that we made, something that we were a part of, how it reached an audience on a more internal level. You know, I've heard countless stories of these kids who are now trying to get into the industry, or how, it has helped them with just internal problems in their life when it comes to, standing up against the bad in their lives. And so, I mean, we've heard countless stories from all these kids, and it's super cool to, almost be a part of their lives through the film. And seeing them just share that appreciation, and seeing us all as a community share the appreciation we have for the movie, it was really just something extraordinary. I mean, you can't really put a word on it, but it was a very cool experience to share with them.
And with an upcoming project you have that we'll talk about at the end, there's that Joe Hill connection with
Mhm.
the Black Phone and with Abraham's Boys. But with the Black Phone, have you seen the trailer for the Black Phone 2? And if you have, what are your thoughts on it?
I have. Um, since, I mean, before Black Phone with Sinister and Doctor Strange, Scott Derrickson's mind is unreal when it comes to being behind the camera. Um, I forget the name of the camera that he uses for this trailers to have that really old grainy look. Um, I love it. There's something about that camera that just says horror, and the really eerie voices that he has. Scott does a great job of scaring you but not showing you anything. And that's what I really loved about the trailer, is that everyone knew the storyline, but they didn't know quite yet what direction it was going to go into. So the trailer looks fantastic. I've reached out to Scott and told him how great he was, and he's always appreciative. But yeah, I think number two looks very cool.
And obviously very excited to explore more with Mason
Mm.
and Madeline's characters. And I mean, Ethan is back as well, so you wonder how that kind of factors in.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with the story. But I can't wait to, be in theaters and support some of my friends. But yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
I know you still get questions, people saying, "Oh, I wish that we could see all of you cameo in it again."
Yeah, we get some of those, and I mean, it would be cool, but I'm a big for the story person. If it's not adding to the story or it's not helping it, don't do it. So, like I said, I'm excited that we had the opportunity to be a part in the first one, and just to see where the story goes and how the fans take it, and just really, I'm just excited to see the fans' reactions, because that's always the best part of coming out with the film. So I'm sure they did a fabulous job with it. But yeah, number two will be really cool to see.
You are still playing guitar, so how has the music been coming along? Are you writing at all?
It's going well. I haven't been able to sit down and really play as much because of work, but I've started to understand music by itself more. So yeah, I am writing a little bit. Nothing that will ever see the light of day. That's not my area. It's more so, sitting at home late at night and just coming up with new chord progressions and solos, if you will. But yeah, nothing that's gonna ever come out on Spotify.
I would say never. I mean, these could be pieces that you just build upon until they're ready.
Maybe, but I am far too picky with what I do, let alone on film. I already judge myself enough. Music, there's no there's
You're like
no
in a whole
there's
other
no
realm.
way. Yeah, no, I just even the way that I hold a guitar sometimes I'm gonna be like, but does that really look good? I don't think I could ever do that. But like you never say never.
You have some friends that do make music as
I
well.
I do. Some of my best friends, and I'm very, very proud of them. I was just over at their house the other day, and they show me all the new stuff that they have on this EP that just came out called Wandering, and it's so good. I'm so proud of them. It's like seeing your best friend succeed and really loving what they do. It's always super cool to see that.
And we'll give them a shout out. The band's
Oh,
name
of
is.
of course, Sophia the band. Go check them out. They are some super sick kids, and they play out of this world. Concerts, if you can go see them, I know they're about to do a small tour. Go watch them.
I was gonna say maybe one day you'll open for them, just like a quick acoustic set, you know?
I think I would do better as a stand-up comic in front of them as an opener than any sort of
You're like,
music.
I'll be the MC, maybe.
Right. I can do that. I can be a great MC, definitely not any music, especially before them. They would make me look so bad. It's not even funny.
You, I know, are always posting about them on stories as well. So you're showing them that love and support. And I'm sure that they would give it back to you for,
Oh, I mean,
little attempts, even jam sessions.
yeah, I go over and watch them play every once in a while, but my thing is, if you have the ability to help out somebody else, especially that you're close to, there's no second thought about it. I mean, all of my friends, there's no one that I don't want to see succeed in the thing that they love to do. Because I mean, why wouldn't you? So yeah, I try to help out my friends as much as possible, just because I believe it's the right thing to do.
We'll get into your role in The Waterfront on Netflix, and I will note for everyone watching this interview, we are discussing spoilers, so please make sure you have finished season one before continuing. You star as Diller Hopkins. What can you share about your audition process and what drew you to the scripts and this project?
Well, what's funny is I was on vacation with my family in Florida. And my team gets the email and says, "Hey, Kevin Williamson is with Netflix coming out with this new show, The Waterfront." And hearing Kevin Williamson automatically had my attention because Dawson's Creek, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream, these are all shows and movies that I watched growing up. So I was automatically hooked. And it was one page of dialogue. It was so secretive. It was one page of dialogue. Um, between Diller and his mom, played by Melissa, and it would just automatically sucked me in. And I was like, I have to have this. And he was listed as a 14-year-old, and that I didn't know if I was looking 14, so I send my tape in, and the next day I wake up and we get an email that says, "Hey, he was fantastic, but he doesn't look 14." And I was like, yeah, I could have guessed that coming. And so I kind of sat there with it. I was like, well, obviously they liked my work. It was a pleasure being able to perform this. I'm going to do my best to move on with my life and not really look back on it. So I continue my vacation. I come home. We get an email that says, "Hey, we need Brady's real. We need all the information you can give us about Brady. Is he still in North Carolina? And I was like, they just told me no. Like, what's going on? So we were all very confused. I mean, this is like the ideal Hollywood saying no, then yes, then no, then yes. So I was sent them all my information, went to bed, wake up the next morning. I have 3 missed calls from my agent, 4 missed calls from my manager, text messages. And I call them back while I'm in bed. I'm like, hello, my eyes just opened. Like, you need to be in Wilmington in 36 hours. You got the job. And so I'm just trying to process what just happened. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really happening. So I had to pack up a bag. I raced all the way to Wilmington, crashed at my friend's dorm at the university, woke up the next morning and ran to the table read. And everyone was shocked that I was at the table read because I signed the contract 5 minutes before I was allowed into the building. Like, it was all just super close together. And we got in, did the table read, and yeah, now I got to be Diller, which was awesome.
What a story. And I mean, for you, did they ever give you a reason like, oh, you thought they did say no initially, but I'm sure you did such a good job that they just had to increase Diller's age
Well, they
to
did. I meant to say that. Yeah. So they came back and they were like, you know what? We actually like him. So we made his age 16. We think he could do 16. And so I was kind of like, okay, genetics are paying off. This is good. But yeah, I thought that was so interesting that they liked me enough to change the character's age. Because 14 to 16, you know, those are two very big years of growing up in somebody's life. Like 14 to 16, you're driving now. So that was interesting. And I wonder if they changed anything about the character with that. But super grateful they did because now I was able to do the show.
I mean, I guess you filmed it when you were, was it 18 or 19?
It was right after my 19th birthday. I was in Wilmington for a week or two for just very basic scenes for filming. Then I went home, and then I think we came back in September. Oh, I came back in September, and then we went from this September to a week before Christmas, and that's when we wrapped. So then we all got to go home and see our families, which was really, really nice of them.
I was gonna say maybe a bit easier, I guess, to play 3 years younger than 5 years younger would have
Exactly.
been would have been a
Exactly.
bit of a stretch. But I'm so glad that it worked out for you, and you're fantastic in this role. We'll get into a bit more about the character, but what knowledge or information were you provided with on the true events that inspired the show, and can you share any of that?
Right. So what I've heard and what I've been told was a lot of it that I have heard was based off of some of Kevin's family. I know the big one was connecting Kevin's father to Harlan Buckley, played by Holt McCallany, which he's fantastic. And then I saw Holt touched on the other day how he connected the character to his father as well. So it was really cool seeing everyone kind of have these relationships with the characters that they were playing. But I think that was really cool. And then Kevin matching the whole North Carolina coastal town scene. Yeah, I don't know entirely too much on what the true stories or true events are, but that's all I know from the little bit that I've been told or heard.
It would definitely be interesting to dive more into that side, but I'm sure that your kind of showrunners and writers and creators might like let you in on that hopefully
Oh,
later on.
I haven't been able to watch it, but I'm sure Kevin touched a lot of it on the ATX where they just premiered the show. I'm sure there's a bunch over there, but hey, that's also research for me.
And I was gonna say it sometimes might be good to go in a bit blind as Diller is, with the family business.
Yeah, I mean, I took my approach to the character strictly based on what was on the paper, and then if I had questions for Kevin, Kevin would, open book. He created the show, so he was very helpful with some of those things. But no, I took Diller, and I really wanted to make him the product of the entire family and the chaos of everybody. I wanted to pull characteristics from everybody in the family to make Diller. So if he had these moments where he has to be super, um, heroic and he has to show bravery and courage, I would take that from Harlan. If he's trying to, talk somebody down and calm them down off of a very life or death situation, I kind of take that from Kane, played by Jake Weary. So there's all these different elements that I would take from all the other characters. And I think that's really what makes a good, you know, a kid role is, I mean, the old phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. So I wanted to take all those elements and put it into one character so you could kind of see those other characters and how they've had an influence on this kid's life.
For sure. What preparation did you do in pre-production and leading up to the shoot to prepare for Diller? Like, was there anything you did, in that time before you came back in September to film all your scenes once you started, reading the scripts, maybe making
Hmm.
notes, anything like that?
Yeah, well, a lot of it was obviously the scripts, seeing in the direction this show was going, where Diller was evolving through the show. A lot. I always do this with a lot of my characters. Music was always a big thing, so not so much creating playlists, but matching the tone of the scene that I'm about to go do with the same tone of some of the music I would play. And then really the big one is being around the other actors when you all collectively set a tone for the day and what you guys are going to do. It really helps you sink into that. So all the background work that I've done with notes and writing of what I want Diller to, be like in this scene and where he's going to evolve from the scene or where he was before the scene, that coming to set with all of that, and then the preparation that all the other actors and actresses have done with their characters, the chemistry just formed together, and it just looks so fantastic. I'm really excited for everybody to see it.
I was gonna say Diller is a swimmer, which we only kind of see a brief scene, but the physical preparation, I'm sure, was not too much of a challenge for you. You must have already come in being like, okay, I already am like, good to go on that front.
Yeah, what I wasn't expecting, I mean, I've swam my entire life. I grew up a lot of the times in Wilmington. We always had trips out here, whether it was for sports or just family vacations. Water here gets very cold in the fall and the winter. It gets very cold. So I am very surprised the shot that we got of me, I was not shivering because, mind you, it was freezing. But no, physicality wise, I've always been a pretty strong swimmer. I'm just glad that it looked like it on camera because we invited some of these kids from a local school, I believe, that were on the swim team. So that was Diller's competition, was real swimmers. So I was standing on the platform asking them, do I look natural? And luckily, they were like, not bad. So I took that with a grain of salt. But yeah, it was very, very cold water.
You mentioned music playing a part, although not Diller's own playlist, but can you share insight into any songs or artists that you may have listened to prepare for an important scene or moment?
Yeah, it was kind of like if there's a heart-wrenching scene between Diller and Bree, I would play maybe breakup songs. So one of my favorite, very slow bands, if you will, would be Cigarettes After Sex. I love listening to them, especially with night scenes, and you're trying to create this really moody essence of Diller. That was one, and then you get into your more chaotic scenes. I rock was always a super easy one to go to, just because I mean you have some rock bands just playing super loud music. I don't know how that can make somebody tired or not feel like they're excited to go jump into battle. But I'd say, beyond those two is really where a lot of the scenes with Diller were sitting.
And I mean, when we meet him, he is kind of like an angry, angsty teen. So I can definitely see those setting the stage, setting the mood. How would you describe Diller as a person? Like, what are his key personality traits and intentions when we meet him in present day?
I think your first look at Diller, you're just gonna see this. You're gonna see a kid that's very confused. Throughout the show, his opinion on a lot of people are constantly changing. He has a very harsh love-hate relationship with his mother, and you'll see how that evolves through the show. He thinks that his grandfather is Superman, so he has this very strong determination, I would say, to be like his grandfather, the same hardworking, um, legal, um, courageous man that he thinks his grandfather is at first, which I'm excited how they see. I'm excited to see how they make Diller after revealing the whole behind the scenes to him. But no, he has to pick a side because throughout the show you see that he's supposed to be moving out with his dad. And so you really just get to see a kid's mental side just evolve constantly because he's confused. He gets scared. Now he's heroic. He's going to go save somebody, or he's panicking. So you just get to see a wide range of emotions kind of a full circle come together at the very end, where now he kind of is this now young adult turning into his own kind of man.
And with Diller, he's being fed all this different information from different people as well, like different family members. So, like you mentioned, very confused, very much trying to find out what the truth is and also figure himself out as a teenager. And starting from episode one, you mentioned the relationship with his mother. We can see how contentious that is. So, can you expand upon those feelings Diller has towards his mother and the foundation that you built for that early resentment?
Right. Well, you see in the show, Bree's now divorced to her ex-husband, Rodney Hopkins. And from my experience with friends who kind of had in the same situation, some of the parents can feed somebody, whether it's lies, the truth, but kind of their side to the story. And so I kind of was leaning on the thought of, well, what if I created something that Rodney would tell Diller and he took it as truth? And that's where he starts as episode one with Bree. And then throughout the show, when he spends more time with his mom and he sees his mom's true motivation of love and support and trying to win back him as a son, I think that starts to, kind of reveal the veil on his face, saying, "Okay, now this is really who she is." But with Melissa and her preparation for the role, creating this "I'm sorry, come back" to the resentful "you'll never get me" on episode one it was very easy to kind of sink into.
And with his father, like you mentioned, his father, he openly insults the Buckley family. He's always putting down Bree to Diller. So you can think about what, years of being fed that information has
Right.
factored into how he sees his mother. And there's the incident, of course, that's brought up multiple times about burning down the house with Diller inside and having to pull him out. So did you kind of consider that as well, and how much that would affect Diller?
I would say that is almost 99% of what is hitting Diller. Because throughout the show, we see Diller always trying to be around Buckley's. He tells his mom in the show, "I'm a Buckley too." So he very much craves, you know, the idea of being a Buckley and not just a Hopkins. And so I think the only reason really that he hates his mom is because of what she did. And I think he's kind of ashamed and disgraced of being the son of somebody who has messed up this bad that the rest of the Buckley family is kind of shunning her from work or being able to handle, certain information that she's not allowed access to. I think he kind of feels less of a Buckley because of her actions.
That is such a good analysis because, like you mentioned, the Buckley is his grandfather, someone he idolizes, and so anything that could maybe cast a bit of shade on him, even like by
Exactly,
extension of his
exactly.
mother. How long do you think has passed since the house burning incident?
Oh man.
Because I'm not sure if that's ever really touched on in the show, or if we're just like led to believe it was like, I don't know, a couple years, something like that.
During filming, it was the first question I had asked Kevin because that was the first scene I filmed was when he brings up the house burning down. And I'm not going to say set in stone because honestly, I do forget, but I believe it was very recent. I want to say a year. I want to say this is so new. And I think because it was so new, that's what really brings in a lot of this resentment at the start of the show. Because a couple years you might start forgiving this person more. When we first meet Diller, there's no forgiveness. Like it is set in stone. You can give me all the shoes you want, all the money you want, but will not forgive you for what you have done. So I would say very, very soon. The time from when the house burned down was almost immediate.
Still very raw in his mind, as it should be. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not something you would get over really easily, especially
it's a
being your
big, it's a
mother.
big, it's a very big deal, and to see kind of your mother in that state, and then the reprehensions that she has to go through right after. That's very hard, especially on a young child to see.
And aside from the fact that it put himself in danger, I'm sure, it's also coming from a place like, I wish my mother was not like this. I wish she was
Exactly.
healthier, because there is that care as well. And I love seeing the relationship evolve, which we'll get to. But you mentioned idolizing his grandfather, something that obviously Rodney is against, and he keeps warning Diller about it. But how has it been watching his family build and run this empire? And after he's given the job, like what motivates him to want to be a part of the family business?
I think that's the reason that he idolizes Harlan so much, is because he sees Harlan as his male bravado, providing, starting up this company from nothing, and now it's super successful. And I think Diller kind of wants to get in because I mean he's Diller is scrubbing fish guts off of the dock. So I think Diller kind of comes from this very humble, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start from nothing. And then I'm going to build my own thing and kind of leave behind this legacy that my grandfather has. So I think it's the hard work and, yearning for something of his own is what really motivates him to kind of be like his grandfather.
And with the business, I'm curious, like, do you think Diller has heard any of the rumors of his great grandfather's shady business activities, or was that kind of shielded from him as a kid?
I think Diller has heard nothing. I think he believes that his family are 100% clean, law abiding citizens that have never done any wrong to anybody, especially his grandfather. So that's why I'm very excited to see kind of how shocked Diller is when he starts to, sink in the quicksand, if you will.
And it means a lot to Diller to be a part of his family business. He chooses to ignore, go around his dad, which, of course, obviously, his dad's warnings, there was some truth to it that he discovers later on. But has he ever considered the nice and privileged lifestyle his family business has given him? Or again, is it like a bit naive, or he doesn't really think about that?
I think Diller knows. I mean, it's kind of hard to ignore that when you're at that level of, Buckley money, and just like they say in the show, you drive around the town and you see nothing but the name Buckley. So I think Diller sees the way people think of Harlan and all the other Buckley. So I think he definitely knows it's there. What I get from Diller is, like I was touching on earlier, I think he kind of wants to take that and only kind of morph it into a way where he can, you know, start his own empire as a Buckley. So he takes the privilege, see what it gives him, and really it gives him nothing but opportunity. I mean, he really can't fail. I mean, if his mom burns down a house and they can just build up a new one, obviously he knows that if he can't fail, he can only dream as big as he wants to.
Definitely building blocks for the future as he is still in school. But I mean, the 4 to 5 pairs of Air Jordans that his mom just basically throws at him.
He
I
acts
mean,
like it's nothing. Exactly.
and for Diller, just like he's unimpressed in that moment
Right.
too.
I think it's more of a, I think like I said, he's been privileged his entire life. So I think he can almost see past it as like, look, you can give me $1 million. I think he's yearning for the more personal connections, the more, the things that are really going to mean something 100 years later, rather than the very sudden materialistic things that he gets through his whole life.
And speaking about privileged lifestyle, we can kind of see that his father, Rodney, and his partner, Georgina, are kind of well off as well. And we don't get to see much of his life at home with them. So, how did you interpret his relationships with Rodney and Georgina?
Well, like I was saying earlier, I kind of touched on the relationships some of my friends had in very similar scenarios. And a lot of that was at that young age, at that age 16, a lot of kids aren't really, from my experience, a lot of kids aren't really welcome to that new um, stepmother guardian, especially if they're putting down constantly their biological family. I think that's a very personal thing for Diller, and I don't think he appreciates it very much. And so with building it, I just kind of went back to the text. And anytime we saw Diller with Rodney, he really wasn't happy. There was nothing in the script saying, he was overcome with joy when Rodney Hopkins showed up. It was always like, oh crap, here we go again. And so I kind of took that and just ran with it. So anytime that they interact, it was very much, he's going to yell at me again. I'm just going to get in trouble. Like nothing good is going to come out of this situation.
I always got the feeling watching the first season as maybe his father was also the one to push him to do swimming and do well as a swimmer because as we see,
Yeah.
Diller is he's not really passionate about that.
No, I think, I mean, at the end of the day, if it's something his dad does or wants him to do, I think it's another escape from home for him. It's an activity that he can do where he doesn't have his parents around, which is kind of why he doesn't look very happy in the one shot we get, because he turns around and the only thing he sees at a meet is his parents arguing. So I definitely think that that ties into the sport itself, that he doesn't enjoy it. But I also think that it can I think he might have, created some bonds with some people at these practices.
Diller meets the charismatic Grady in episode 5. What are his first impressions of him, and why did he trust Grady enough to get into his car the following episode?
The character Grady, played by the amazing Topher Grace, I'm such a genuine fan of his. Topher was nothing but this charismatic, humorous person. So he takes that into Grady, and the first time Diller really meets Grady, he starts to treat him like a man instead of a kid. He starts making jokes with him, and he kind of just brings Diller in as if they've been best friends for since Diller was born. And so I think that really made Diller feel, you know, that this is what I've wanted to feel. And this guy's giving me this. So now I can be cool with this guy, even though he's a total stranger. And throughout the show, you see he starts hanging out with Grady against Harlan's wishes because Grady is treating him as one of these top Buckley men, as he says.
And definitely him starting to ask Diller questions about the business too. And, he wants to feel
Yeah,
knowledgeable.
he's
He
like,
wants to
okay,
feel informed.
I'm now a part of the business. Like, this is what I have been wanting for my life. And so, yeah, I mean, Grady is such a little snake. I mean, he knows how to weave himself into any situation to get what he wants. And you just see that tear down Diller's walls. I mean, it goes right through Diller. There's no question, no thought, no stranger danger that goes through his ears. Like he's such a fool, if you will, whenever Grady starts talking to him.
I was gonna say, like, he does turn back at the fishery in episode 5, and maybe he sees it was either his uncle or his grandfather and Grady. And I mean, they don't look happy to see Grady, but I guess, Diller, he's still he just sees, oh, that magic and that charisma he brings, and he likes the feeling of feeling important with him. How are
Exactly.
the impromptu hunting scenes to film, including when Diller is shot and having to act that out?
There was a lot of tense build up to it because you kind of have to play the we don't know something bad's going to happen until the something bad happens. So, I mean, the hunting scenes were great. Holt, Topher, and I, we get to go walk through the woods and act like we're on a hunting trip. And all of the vans and all the crew out there. It was like such a fun like play date, if you will. It was awesome. And we got to make jokes and laugh together. It was such a great time. But when we had to get to like the very tough scenes of Harlan with Diller in his hands, rushing out of the woods, taking him to the hospital. Those are very intense to shoot, and we didn't really have a lot of time that day to get them done. So everyone was very, locked into the material. But yeah, I will say being shot like that was definitely new. I kind of had to go over with the stunt team a little bit and make sure that what I thought it looked like was accurate because I don't know really what it looks like to be shot outside of TVs and movies. But they kind of gave me the gist of what I needed to do. So we did that. But what was really funny with the guns when we're acting like we're shooting is on our set, obviously you're not allowed to have live weapons or live ammunition. We didn't even have airsoft guns to where we could pressurize them. We didn't even have blanks. So what it was is we had somebody off camera yelling bang. And when they yelled, that's when we would, act like we just fired the weapon. And the first couple of times we did it, I kind of had a hard time taking it very seriously because you're trying to act like you're on this serious hunting trip and you just hear from the woods, bang. It was very funny. But I had such a fun time getting shot, and we took some awesome pictures that I can't wait to release once the show's been out for a while. But yeah, it was such a fun day.
And being carried by Holt through the woods. How was that for you?
I was so impressed. I really was. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen somebody in real life carry somebody and sprint through the woods. I mean, at the time on the show, I was like 157 pounds, dead weight. That's really heavy. And Holt was like, they were like, we got this dummy we're going to set up. And Holt was very much, no, let's do it. And everyone was like, what do you mean? And Holt was like, I can do it. So yeah, they said rolling action. Holt picks me up and boom, he's gone. And I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, like, there's no way he's actually doing this. And they got the shot and everybody loved it. And he was the hero of the day. It was insane.
when Diller goes down and then it's just, it's you're bleeding and it's a hard watch because for Diller, he has no idea what's going on in that
Exactly.
moment.
And that's what I love about this scene is you leave that scene because there's still a lot of TV to watch. You leave that scene with one question. Was it an accident? Or was that on purpose to really get at Harlan? And so I'm very excited to see what the fans think about that.
And I feel like it's open-ended because at the end of the season, you still don't have the true answer behind
So
it.
many questions left at the end of the season, and I'm so ready for the conversation to come out and just see what everyone's saying. It's going to be so fun to just sit there and watch.
Halfway through the season, Diller starts seeing a more emotional, honest side to his mother, including when she insists she stay by his side at the hospital. So, how is he feeling having these interactions with her that aren't so combative?
I think once Diller starts to see that his mom has ultimately made herself a living sacrifice for him, kind of what I touched on earlier. This isn't a materialistic thing. Like this is a very raw physical gesture of putting herself in harm's way to make sure that he's okay. That she's risking losing control of seeing Diller just to stay by his side at the hospital. I think Diller starts to see the stakes are rising and she's not budging by his side. And I think Diller sees the real Bree. And I think he starts to, from that point on, becomes more and more and more accepting of, she messed up, but she is doing her absolute best to return back to normal. And so I think that means a great deal to Diller.
And even in episode 5, they have that moment in the locker room at the fish house where he does call her mom and reaches out when she is in tears. So you can kind of see that care and that
Right.
relationship start to grow.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good scene. And poor Melissa, she had to cry so much throughout this season. I have no idea how she did it,
You're like, how
but
many tears does she have
oh,
in
I
her?
was like, at what point do your eyes just stop making tears? And she was like, you have no idea. But no, she's so fantastic, and she makes every performance that we had to do. It was emotional. I mean, I can't wait to see how many people are going to be crying during watching this show. It is out of this world.
Diller runs off after hearing his father's plans to relocate due to a job offer. So, what emotions is he feeling when he hears of the plans? Like, what scares him and causes him to run away from home?
I think what's really going through his head, really, when anyone has the feeling of wanting to run away, is their initial thought is, what they're going through. They would rather not ever deal with it again and just run away and let that problem just be gone. And so I think it's a very spontaneous thing that Diller is trying to do. I don't think he's really thought through the action of genuinely running away from his family and not seeing them. So I just think it's he feels hurt and he doesn't want to feel that hurt anymore. And he thinks his only solution to that is by packing a bag and hitting the road.
And hiding in a boat behind his
Hiding in
family's
the boat
business.
right behind the business.
Very smart move there, but it's one of those
Genius.
things where, he's a teenager. He doesn't know what the next steps
Exactly.
are, but I'm sure the prospect of moving obviously away from the Buckley family business is also what's scaring him and a bit of his mom at that time too.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying is, someone's trying to take away his dream, essentially. They're trying to take away everything that he's really been seeking after. And so I think that he feels that his mom and dad are really putting his best interests aside to get what they want. And that's what I think when I say he feels hurt. I think that's really what he's feeling, is that it's almost like they don't really care about what I want. They're fighting to get the upper hand in their argument, not about what I want to be 20 years from now. And so maybe he could have picked a little bit of a better hiding spot, but he did what he did. He didn't get that far in his plan.
I mean, for plot purposes, it made for a beautiful scene with his mother, which
Yep.
I do want to note. But Diller ends up on the boat with his mother after seeing her get kidnapped, having snuck on. What made him make that heroic move? I know you touched on it earlier about maybe his grandfather's kind of spirit running through him. Was he not afraid of the danger that he might be getting himself into?
I think, like any good hero, they're scared. They know what's at stake. And I think that's what makes it so heroic, is that they know what's on the line, but they're willing to cross it. And so I think a little bit of it is throughout the season, Diller will not do anything from his mom. And so now this is really the first choice of, do I return the favor? Do I go help my mom like she has helped me? Or do I, sit back and do nothing because I'm still mad at what she's done? Or do I really be her son and go help? And so I think in that moment, you know, he reflects on his grandfather. And I think that's kind of like that, what would Harlan do? And I think ultimately he's wanting to prove himself that he's fully capable of taking care of his mother or just his family in general. So I think all these little things that are building up in his head of like, this is my moment to really do it. I think that's essentially what drives him to get on that boat. And it's kind of all or nothing. But if I go down, I'm going to be there with my mom. And I think that's really something that he thought hard about.
And a little bit of that adrenaline rush as well. I'm
Um,
sure he didn't have too much
if
time to
if he
decide
was
whether
that
he.
if he's that spontaneous with running away, I don't put it past him that when he got that adrenaline kick in and he thought he could be somebody, that he was gone.
And those boat scenes, I mean, very, again, very intense. How are they to film and get into the right headspace physically and emotionally with Diller finally realizing the bad business that his family is in? And, obviously his grandfather seeing him get beat up, but also
Mhm.
knowing, what kind of caused or started that in the first place.
Right. Well, with those scenes especially, we were filming near the Coast Guard's base, and they brought out this huge boat, which is so cool to see. I mean, I've never been on a boat that big. It was wild. But yeah, I had to go downstairs on the boat. I can't believe that I can say that, but I had to go downstairs on the boat, and I had this little room with four bunk beds, two on each side, and it was like pitch black in this room. The curtains were drawn, all of that, and I would sit down there. As soon as I would go up to our producers and our ads and say, hey, when we have 10, 15 minutes until we're filming, let me know. This is where I'll be. And so, yeah, I had to do this whole physicality and mental breakdown of a character, because that's essentially what you're doing, is you're taking all of Diller's beliefs, his ideas, what he thinks in his family, and you're ripping them apart. Because now he's seeing what is really happening, who all of these characters really are in his life. And so he essentially has to create a whole new identity of who they are. And that's traumatizing for anybody, regardless especially that he's 16. Like, that is such a traumatic thing to go through. And then seeing your grandfather, almost die in front of you. How does he handle that? He can't do anything. He doesn't have weapons. He's surrounded by people with guns. This is the lowest that Diller has ever felt. And you're watching him be there at that point, thinking that his life's over with his entire family with him. This is how the Buckley name goes out. And so you just get to sit there, and it's such a sad sob story in the moment. But yeah, it is definitely some intense scenes to watch and film, especially.
And for Diller watching his mother get shot and thrown overboard and his quick thinking to throw her kind of like that life raft as well.
Hmm.
Was it easy for you to decompress after filming on those days or
It was in my training. Uh, through the years I've done a training for acting, one of them that I was brought to was the whole how to handle yourself after something like that. And one thing that was big for me was watching them kind of break down the set. So after we filmed that, I kind of stuck around for a little bit because now they're taking the crane cameras down. Now you're seeing the jet skis and the divers being brought off. So you kind of see this, you know, fantasy world we've been living in being destroyed. And so you now can go, okay, obviously this is fake. Now we're going to step back into real life. I'm going to go get in my heavy coat because the wind out there was insane. I'm going to go get in my coat. I'm going to get back on my little transit van and head back and go get some food. And so, yeah, I would say my biggest thing was just making sure that I knew what I did was not the real me. And that's really what helped me get through a lot of that stuff because they're very hard things to imagine in your mind.
well, I think as your character as Diller, you did a fantastic job, and I'm glad that you can kind
Thank
of
you.
put that away at the end of a long day. That hospital scene between you and Melissa was beautiful. They finally reached an understanding. How was that to shoot and find a bit of that closure for Diller, as well as, what kind of reaffirmed and cemented him wanting to stay in town?
I mean, at the end, Diller and Bree have had this long journey, and Diller's been able to see his mother sober up, risk herself for the family, take on the responsibility of things that she has messed up and that she admits were wrong, and through all of that has been there for Diller the entire time. And now they've just gone through people getting shot, thrown overboard, beat up. And so I think at the end, when they're all together, there's kind of this, this is really what family is all about. Is that we've gone through all of this stuff, and at the very end, this is who was there to really be there for everybody else. And maybe, hey, I'm sure Rodney didn't really know what was going on, but Rodney wasn't there, and Bree was. And I think that's really what Diller felt was that she's been here through everything. So I think, this is ultimately what I want. Everything that I have wanted has been reassured in this moment.
Your mom, of course, played by Melissa Benoist, so talented. How was she to work with in your scenes, and did the two of you ever discuss your characters' relationship with each
Mm.
other?
Yeah, I mean, I filmed with her the most out of anybody else, and Melissa's fantastic. I grew up watching, some of the Supergirl episodes. I used to watch those with my dad. So showing up to set and being like, I can now say Supergirl is my mom. That was a really cool flex to tell some of my friends. But yeah, Melissa and I would go over some stuff, just about really what we want to tackle in the scenes. But we also would hang out all the time. In between takes, we would mess around in the hospital scenes or wherever we were. We had some really good conversations on set. Um, so a lot of it was also based off of some of the chemistry that we built with each other and just getting to know each other and how, as actors, we work on set. You kind of can just, press those buttons and they see that you're pressing those buttons. And so it was this very like mental telepathic way that we could go through the scene, which I thought was really cool.
Especially in those early scenes when Diller's constantly talking back at Bree, like the
Those were
pushing the buttons.
so fun. Oh, it was awesome because the cameras would stop and she'd be like, "You're such a little a hole," like just joking with. She was. I mean, it was fantastic. We could. we could be serious on camera enough to make these scenes, but as soon as the camera was it stopped rolling, we were constantly making jokes with each other, telling stories. Yeah, I mean, she's fantastic. I have nothing but great things to say about her.
There was the scene I mentioned when she says, "You are the reason I will never stop trying to be better." Such a sweet moment
I
there,
mean,
and you felt it being in the scene too.
oh, are you kidding? I mean, she's there. You're there together. You're trying to be in this moment. She's crying, and she says this. I don't care if you're acting. If somebody says that to you, you can't help but just feel this overwhelming, like, that's the sweetest thing I have ever heard. So it's just a very emotionally raw thing to say to somebody. And I mean, she does it so beautifully on camera.
I was gonna say I know I don't want to get too much into this because I know it's quite personal, but she did reveal like she is a boy mom as well. I know her son is quite a bit younger than you, but I'm sure you could feel some of that motherly instinct in your
Oh,
scenes.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'd constantly be like, wow, it's kind of like you've taken care of somebody before. And she's like, yeah. And I got to, she'd show me pictures and everything. I mean, she has such a cute family. I mean, they all look great with each other.
And I'm sure you watched her partner as well in some of those Supergirl episodes.
Oh yeah. Oh, she used to tell me so many cool stories from that show. I was just like, wow, I didn't know that you could do that. And she was like, I did. And I was like, well, good for you.
Maybe you'll get to fly like a superhero in a future project.
We'll see, I mean, cards are on the table. Conversations need to be had, but yeah, we'll see.
How was it to act opposite experienced veteran actors like Holt McCallany and Topher Grace? What can you say about each of them as people, and what did you learn by having them as scene partners?
I mean, like the first thing that I told both of them, because these are guys that I watched my whole life. I mean, Topher with that '70s show and the Spider-Man movies, like that was my jam. And then Holt with Mindhunter. I mean, and then the Iron Claw was one of my favorite movies. I think it was 2023 when the Holdovers was out. I mean, these are all movies and shows that I love dearly. And so, like, the first thing I had to be the icebreaker and be like, hey, I just have to put this out there. You were fantastic in this, and this. And they were so kind and appreciative of it. But being able to like talk about the stories behind what they used to do on other sets was like kind of an icebreaker for all of us. But yeah, being able to just sit there and watch them do what they're best at, it was unreal. I got a free master class course. It was like I was training on set. I mean, watching them, yeah, it's like paying for a master class because they are so good at what they do. And you learn just by watching them on how to be a better actor. You see them, setting up before the cameras roll in their preparation, and you just get new ideas to try, or you start doing those things and you find out those things are working. They're constantly showing everybody on set, how to just be better at their craft. And I have such an appreciation for it. And it was just amazing to work with both of them.
I love that for you. And I know with Topher, I was also a fan of like he was Spider-Man 3 he was in as Eddie Brock, and I could see some of that charisma even from like
Exactly.
that movie kind of shine through in this new character. And now, if renewed for a season 2, what would you like to explore with Diller? And are there any other storylines for other characters you'd be interested in seeing more of?
Oh man. I would say, first off, what is the first thing Diller does in episode 1? He's just gone through all of that. How is he recovering? Does he still like his family? I mean, if he felt that way about his mom burning down a house, I would say what his family has done is a little bit bigger than just burning down a house. So my first thing, I would just really want to see um, how Diller handles everything that we see in the last episode of season 1. Other than that, I know whatever Kevin writes will blow my mind. The way that he writes I mean, reading the scripts, the plot twists don't just happen on camera. I mean, I'm reading these papers and I'm like, I have no clue this was going to happen, or that character is completely different than what I thought they were. The plot twists are insane. So whatever Kevin decides to do, I know it's going to be the right choice.
And there's so many possibilities where it could go. Diller also possibly has a new uncle as well that I know isn't really explored. So many characters to share scenes with, and I hope you get the opportunity to do so. The series was filmed, of course, in North Carolina, your home state. So how special was it to film there and get to film in the coastal towns as well?
I mean, there's always this little magic about coming to Wilmington. I've gone to Wilmington my entire life, countless trips out here. Filming out here was Black Phone. So, I constantly come to Wilmington and I go, oh, I went there with some of my friends when we were filming. I've done this, and now I get to film something new. So now, even here today, I was looking outside my window. I was like, oh, we filmed on that street, or that's exactly where Diller first met Grady. So Wilmington will always hold a special place in my heart, even though I've grown up here my entire life. That's why it will hold a place in my heart. But it's such a joy just to come out here and enjoy the Wilmington weather with people who have not even been to Wilmington before. And so to share that with everybody, and then, I mean, the camera's done, you wrap on the day. There's nothing better to recover than heading to the beach. So having the option to go do that was also really special. But hey, as a North Carolina boy, Wilmington, I'd say, is probably my favorite place to film.
Are there any fun details you can share about the sets and filming locations, including the maybe fishery or Buckley seafood company that you got to be at?
Well, the sets were crazy. Once again, I can't wait to post these on social media. I took pictures of all the sets, so many videos, because they're so detailed. They're so big that you're like, oh, there's nothing in that box because the camera will never see it. There's always something. I mean, it is genuinely breathtaking. But we filmed a lot of the restaurants, the fishery, and the hospital, from what I can remember, and some bedroom scenes. Those are all filmed on sound stages at Screen Gem Studio, which I'm very familiar with. So those were fun. But yeah, we also did like the outside scenes on docks and everything. And it was cool seeing crowds kind of gather around and they're watching a TV show. A really funny story I had when I was filming with Topher, there were these groups of kids walking along the sidewalk. And I look out the window like right before we're going to roll. And it's my childhood friend who lived behind my house for like 7 years. And they look over and they're like, Brady? And I was like, hey, I can't say hey right now, but this is cool. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of cool things that happened, but yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I totally forgot what the question was. I was gonna rope it around the
No
end.
worries.
I
It's just
started
about like kind
memories.
of sets and filming locations,
Yeah,
but
oh
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, we would travel all the way down to Southport, but being outside in the sun, and you can't really beat it. I mean, being indoors all day can kind of get really tiring. So you get some sunlight on your face, good people around you. Like I said, that's why I love filming in Wilmington.
and the boat scene that was out on open water.
No, sorry. The boat scene and the yacht was that was filmed docked. So I know they had to take it out for some shots to see the boat, but no, the entire time that we were on the boat, I think legally we had to be docked on the side.
Better to be safe than sorry.
I did not want to be on a sinking boat, I can tell you that.
I mean, it was so cool though to see the different coastal settings and then have that be such a pillar for the show and the where it takes place. Before I let you go, we have to talk about Abraham's Boys, a Dracula story, because the trailer was just released last week and it looks fantastic. So,
Thank
what can
you.
you tell me about the project and your character? You play Max Van
Yeah.
Helsing.
So we take the story of the Van Helsing, of the character Van Helsing, the vampire hunter. Um, and we kind of expand into his life. Really, what if Van Helsing had a family? Who would those characters be? And that's what the genius Joe Hill wrote about. And you really get to dive into these characters that have been isolated and they are being led by the father, Abraham Van Helsing. And the story is mainly about my character, Max Van Helsing, who's kind of this, I will do whatever my father tells me to do because if not, I'm going to get into serious trouble. So he's this very soldier like character who has this fearful respect for his father. And so you kind of get to see that relationship grow after, certain events happen throughout the movie that kind of changes the lines of how you view some of these characters. And what I'm very excited for the movie, and I talked to Joe about this when we were in New Orleans screening the movie. Uh, there's so many questions. There will be two sides to this question, and I'm not going to reveal anything, but there's going to be a lot of major conversation and theories about this movie. And I really am super excited for people to see that one as well. That's a very, very cool movie.
And you mentioned a screening. Was that when you had the Overlook Film Festival in
Yes,
April?
that's when we were in New Orleans for the Overlook Film Festival with Shutter, and that was very fun. I had a fun time. It was hot.
I
I'm
was
not a
gonna
fan of
say,
not a fan of the weather down there.
getting to reunite though with some of the cast and crew and your director, Natasha Kermani. So, what was your experience working with her and the creative team?
The creative team, they were so helpful to me because I'm a very behind the camera person. Like I like going up to the DOPs and going or the cinematographers and going, what lens are we using? Like what is your goal out of this shot? Because that helps me as an actor know, okay, if I'm from here to here, I have to be fairly still. Or vice versa. If it's a long shot, I need to be a little bit more expressive. So filming with them, they were so open and guiding me about this. Natasha was very this, fearless, hands-on director leader that we had, where we would brainstorm every single scene before we started rolling. And she had her notes and I had my notes, and we'd put them together. And she was like, okay, this works, this works, this works. Let's put a hold on this. Maybe this has a space somewhere else because we had to keep this storyline on a gradual slope going up until it hits the plot. Because there was a lot of ways with my character, especially, where you could give away kind of the big finisher too early. And so that was a hard part for me to kind of keep it under wraps while knowing in the back of my head what eventually would happen. But Natasha was nothing but fantastic. I love the way that she directs, how she directed me, and being able to see what she wanted out of the movie. Kind of being able to watch the camera now that's about to come out, and being like, oh, that's exactly what she wanted to see, and watching her just get so excited about what she's filming. I mean, it was amazing, and it was really, really inspirational.
That's great. And I love how you talked about, finding that balance. It's like that saying when you don't want to show your cards too early, right? So kind of,
Exactly.
but also keeping people invested in these characters. And you had a great on-screen family, Titus Welliver, Jocelyn Donahue, and Judah Mackey. So how were they to work with as an ensemble?
I had really fun times with them because this was some extreme heat. This was like 100 degrees. It got up to 114 one day. Like this was some dry desert heat. And so with that, some of the cameras would overheat on some of these days. We had a close filming one day because there was a a forest fire started like off of the coast. So we had SAG come out and they're like, we gotta like everyone needs to get out. So we had some crazy things happen, but with the elements coming into play was a lot of time for talking. So Titus, I mean, Bosch, I mean, he has had this entire legacy behind him. So when it comes to the camera, I mean, one of the biggest things I took away from him is he knew where the camera was at all times. He didn't even have to look at the camera. He knew where it was. So he gave me a lot of cool tips on kind of doing certain things that I was kind of unfamiliar with. Jocelyn, she's the scariest person I've ever filmed with before. She's the sweetest human being too. She's so kind. She has the softest voice, but as soon as that camera rolls, she gets into this psychotic craze. And these eyes that she has are so expressive. And so filming with her too, fantastic. And Judah was nothing but the best as well. I kind of got to play Big Brother a little bit when I had to spend time with him. So we would play some games. We'd do puzzles with each other. I had a lot of lunches with everybody, but he was fantastic as well. And being able to kind of do some of the things in the film that he needed to do at a young age, that was really cool to see. And I remember just, kind of helping him with some things and trying to be somewhat of a guidance person to him. But everyone was fantastic to film with. And I think I think the shoot could have been really rough if we didn't get as amazing people as we did, crew and cast.
The trailer looks so intriguing and of course dark, and I'm excited for you because this is like kind of your first lead role in a movie, so I'm sure it was a lot for you to kind of tackle and prepare for. But pretty soon everyone will get to see your work. It's July 11th in theaters, and I'm guessing a release on Shudder on demand shortly after.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut because there's a lot about this movie that has not been announced yet. So I am going to plead the fifth on that.
We do know that the film was acquired by RLJE and Shudder in April. There was an announcement, so fingers crossed there will be news on that front shortly after. But until then, people can check it out in theaters first. I have one more question for you, our wild card question. If you competed on Master Chef, what would you make as your signature dish and why?
I'm going to keep this on topic because there's a restaurant I probably will go eat after this interview that we went to all the time as a cast on the Waterfront called Seabird. And it's this, I mean, del- some of the most amazing food that I've ever had. It's all, well, I'd say mainly seafood. If you're a what are those called? If you're an oyster person, they have great oysters, I've heard. I'm not an oyster person, but they have oh, what is it? It's like they have this pan seared white fish that has a bunch of like microgreens with like this some sort of like vegetable medley. And that's like the sweet spot for me. Like I can get behind some seafood and vegetables and like rice every day of the week. So that's probably what I would bring to the table if I was on MasterChef.
I love the vegetables for health as well. I'm thinking.
I mean, okay, some vegetables I'm not a fan of, but you get some like pan seared like zucchini, some onions, some mushrooms. I can get behind that.
That's a good amount of protein too for
Exactly.
someone for like bodybuilding. I'm sure things like that.
It's all coming right back to it. What can I say?
Full circle. I love that. Thank you so, so much, Brady, for taking the time to chat. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time out of your day.
Of course, and hopefully we can catch up again for a third interview. But until then, for all those watching, you can catch Brady as Diller in the Waterfront. Season 1 is out now on Netflix, and Abraham's Boys, A Dracula Story will be in theaters on July 11th. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.